But he's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall, and I guess you just rhyme with Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome to Bat Minute of the Phantasm, the show that knows no other way to watch movies at this point. We can't stop. We can't stop. I can't watch a whole movie anymore. I am one of your hosts, John Parker.
And here live from the Go Ham Wor Fair, it is me, Niall McGowan.
I have a lot to say. Well, I say a lot. I'm just going to say the same thing you said. It's amazing. I want that as a tattoo. We will get to it. We will.
Like that one arm, and then the Knoxville World's Fair one, and the other the wad fur on the other side.
Oh my god, perfection! Can I get it across my knuckles if I did like double stack? Oh, this would be great. I'm going to work on this. But
it'd be weird though if you had to leave out letters, because then it's whatever.
You could do the letters that are missing in like a white tattoo. Oh, this is great.
Or just cut your fingers off, you know?
Oh, even better. Even
there
better.
You go.
That voice you can hear is our wonderful extra special guest, returning once more. It is the one, the only Brady Crane.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to be back.
Yeah, always a pleasure, Brady.
You're a veteran at this point.
Man, I miss it. I know I say this every time I come back, and it's just like, you know, re-emphasizing how long I've been away from the Movies by Minutes game, but I miss it more and more and more and more every day, every episode of every new show that I'm, you know, starting up. And I don't know. So
I think like you miss it, and then someone will be like, well, Brady, would you want to do this minute by minute? Oh, God,
no.
Yeah. You kidding? I think get back into that game, over to that life.
I think once our Miami connection show is done, it's like I'm just going to stick to Bat Minute with the minute by minute. I don't think I can do another one for a while.
Yeah, it takes it out of you. I mean, it's so much fun. It's a way of life, but it's very, very, very taxing.
Yeah.
And doing
I'm just happy to see though, because like someone who had retired from it from a long while, Travis Bow, he's back in it.
Woo.
He came back for Robin Hood, so it's just like, oh my God, the retirees are coming. Could Brady be tempted back in for Ghostbusters Afterlife minutes?
Oh.
I tell you, just follow in Travis's footsteps and everything will be all right.
Yeah,
because that dude is the man.
But yes, we are here to talk about minute 37 of Batman, Mask of the Phantasm. The minute starts with Bruce becoming the Bat, and it ends with the crushing disappointment of the future that was.
Yeah. It's a big minute. Continue on. We had a big minute last minute. Now this one's like we were left with blue balls the last minute because he was about to put on the mask. And then
I gotta say,
come on.
You guys really did give me, blue balls aside, you guys really did give me not just, I think, one of the most iconic moments of this movie, but one of the most iconic moments in Batman lore.
Yeah.
And it's him donning the cowl. It's, you know, the way it's silhouetted, the music, everything about it. There's no dialogue aside from Alfred, just, you know, my word, my God, whatever it is that he says. And it's a fantastic moment that really registers. It really hits because of the imagery right before it. In the minute right before this, we're going from the breakup letter to this painting of his parents, and then to him donning the cowl. And the whole thing is just like, this is why I do this. This is why I have to do this. And I keep this oil painting of my parents positioned in my house just to where it's going to constantly be looking down on me and judging me and forcing me to do what I'm doing
that
right
is
now
a deliberate placement. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the fact that there is that part of that transition, not to cover the minute, you know, not my minute, the one before this one, but you know, the fact that here in this animated movie that you would otherwise write off as just going from beat to beat to beat, is putting that shot of that painting in between the horrible breakup letter moment and then him donning the cowl is just, I mean, freaking gut-wrenching.
Yeah. I actually thought of a thing, too, that we talked about it, you know, in the last minute. I just thought a way to kind of like maybe phrase it better was that we're saying that this version of Bruce, prior to his engagement to Andrea, when all the bats come swarming out of the crevice, it didn't have a bat motif. And so it's kind of weird that, like, the whole Batman thing comes from like the other traumatic moment of his engagement to Andrea. The whole bat thing is just like,
oh wow, I hadn't thought of
it's
that.
almost as if like, and then when she meets him, it's like the bat thing. What? Well, that's weird, man. that's a bit stalkery or whatever to be like you're still so upset about it. But I think a better way maybe to put it would be that because Bruce is very superstitious in himself. They have this, criminals are a superstitious, cowardly lot. But in this movie, we do see like him, in his parents' grave, asking for something, and then like a thunderbolt going off, and him kind of taking that as a response. Like he seems like he's as superstitious as anybody else. And so I would take it to be that maybe he saw the bats swarming out as a sign from the universe or his parents to go like, no, this will not happen. You've strayed from the path, and therefore and this relationship will fall apart. And so then him donning like the mantle of the bat, it's kind of almost like a dedication to go like, look, yes, I'm doing it. I will never stray from this. Now this is my life. Is the reminder you sent to me to not stray was that swarm of bats, the omen. And now this is me like signaling that like, yes, I've now become the thing. So
yes, and adhering to your parents, the authoritative disciplinaries of like, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. I will not forget. I will make sure that I don't forget. And nobody else will either. So
it's everything about it, just the putting on that mask too, because it's like an executioner's hood. Yeah, it's like he's going out to execute crime. He's executing himself. Like it's the whole thing. It's fantastic. It's a real work of art here.
It really, really, really is. And so much like. So I haven't seen this. I might have watched this once since I saw it in the theater.
Oh, well,
so many years ago.
That'd be our first question. Usually would be like, "What's the history?" But we've had like one other person who saw it in the theater, so you were there.
Amazing.
Showing my age. Oh, and listen, hey, I was sitting in the theater. The opening credits, the music, the score to this thing, and I vowed in the theater that I would grow up and become Batman.
Be
a vigilante. Well, hey, I'm bringing as much justice as I can to the rough streets of Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Hey.
So
it's like everywhere you go, there's swarms of bats going around, going like, "What the hell? Why do these things keep following me everywhere?" Like, what is this?
Well, one of the most consistent things in this is the pressure that he's putting on himself. That's like we're talking about, brought on by the death of a loved one, his parents in this case. And when I did see it in theaters, I think that was 1993, so I was about 9 years old. And the movie's dealing with the pressure that a child has put on himself and, thinks that his parents are kind of reading that from them onto him, projecting that onto him from them, if that made any sense.
Yeah.
And I was 9 years old when I watched it and was sitting here thinking, like, this is so heavy for children's entertainment, although I don't want to just write it off as that. And how did this hit me when I was 9 years old? And I thought that about it in these terms. So last year I lost my little brother, passed away, and his daughter is now 9 years old, the age that I was when I saw this movie, how that affected me seeing it in a movie, and how this might affect her from having lived through the loss of a parent. And just like it's children's entertainment, not to bring it down, but children's entertainment, would I keep my child away from this kind of thing if it had that impact on me, just seeing it in a movie, if I had like lived it? Of course, he was not gunned down by a murderer in Crime Alley. So it was a little bit different. But, how this movie is just that good. It's just that effective, even though it's animated, even though it's, aimed targeted at kids probably. It still hits and registers in such a way that it would knock me, flat on my ass at 9 years old. How does it register today, 30 years later?
Well, I mean, I had never seen it until we were preparing for this season. Because I wasn't an animation fan. I've brought this up, so I'd not seen it. Maybe I'm biased. I thought it held up very, very well. I thoroughly enjoyed all aspects of this. And this scene in particular, like, it's treating everything with respect. It's not treating it like as an afterthought because it's animation. Like, just get him in the Batman outfit. No, it's a very serious tone.
Very,
Yeah. It goes to the whole range of things, like the music in particular. Like in nearly every scene, the music in this is phenomenal. But like, it had that whole thing last minute of the sort of like the pre-Batman Bruce theme, like kind of the Mask of the Phantasm theme.
Oh yeah.
But that kind of very funereal march vibe to it, like sort of exploding towards destiny, and then to go into like a very somber a sort of ominous version of the Batman main theme, like dun 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 dun, and then they give it the weight, him putting on the mask, and then it kind of kicks into a more dynamic but still very dark sounding kind of thing of like, it's the hero moment, but it's also not quite. It's a real mix of like, the guy heading towards it's treated with the weight of a tragedy, but then it also has a sort of like, well, it's Batman, kids, but also it's not, it's kind of like
I think that's why it works though, because kids watching it will just be like, oh cool, he's Batman. Yay, Batman's here. Whereas an adult would be like looking into it like we are and thinking, oh, this is kind of dark.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the main thing there being, of course, Alfred's reaction is like one of the main things I love in the whole scene is like even before. Because when Bruce puts on the mask, before he even turns around, they animate Alfred to have a slight reaction of, even when he sees the silhouette, he's a bit like, whoa. And then to turn around and he does the infamous squint.
Oh yeah, do you think it's the eyes that cause the reaction? Because I do. I think it's the eyes. Alfred's like, oh God, that's terrifying.
What's up with the eyes, man?
It's interesting that it's a point that the guys over at, I believe it's DC Cinematic Minute. I'm so sorry, I'm screwing up the name of the show. Whenever we had the Movies by Minutes meetup in Denver a few years ago, they were talking about what is kind of the difference between the animated version of Batman and the impact that it has opposed to live action. Of course, the fact that it's animation, but it hits a certain way. It's a little bit more impactful, I think, whenever you're seeing it animated. And their point was that the eyes, it's all in the eyes. It's the white eyes are so impersonal, and it makes him something more than just a man.
And for some reason, it never quite comes across like that when they attempt it in anything live action, I don't think.
That's right, yeah.
It's not that it's bad, it doesn't have the same effect that it does in the animation for some reason.
I think there's a lot of things that they do through the animation in this movie in particular that it can only be done because it's animation. And obviously, like earlier in the movie, the car just goes flying out the, parking garage into the building, everything like that. But there is still a certain, I don't know, you can reach certain levels through animation that you are not going to be able to get through live action in a big way.
Yeah.
So, if that makes any sense.
Oh, totally. Because everything, too, about, like, I think we mentioned the eyes previously just in terms of, like, are they lenses he's got in the cowl? But it seems to be, like, him looking at it there is no, it doesn't seem like there's anything inside the cowl. It's just that whenever he puts it on, for whatever reason, his eyes go white. And that's just the way... There's other episodes and stuff, too. We see him taking off the mask and, like, throwing the thing away or something. And it'll never indicate that he's got anything in there over his eyeballs or anything. It's just like, it's an artistic flourish.
Alfred's like, sir, what have you done to your eyes? My God.
Yes. He has his father's eyes.
They should always show his dad with eyes like this.
And one thing now is, though, because I'm still so curious about the mask and stuff and like the way it works, and like I was even thinking, like, is that squinting? Is that a way? Is he trying to fix something around his eyes? Is that why he's always squinting? He's like, but because it's even like contrast. I guess you'd technically say this is a different version of the costume because he has a different belt and stuff in this scene, but like we see here that the mask is like it's like putting on a balaclava, like it's just like it's just a mask. You just pop on, you can take it off whenever you want. It's not attached to the cape or anything.
Yeah.
At the end of the movie, he's sitting in the Batcave, like, bemoaning everything, and you see that it is attached to the cape at the back. And it's like, did he change it midway through? But then, midway through his career, but then, like, there's episodes, again, of the show where he's in this outfit, and you see him take off the mask and, like, throw it down a chasm and stuff. And I was like, so it is a detachable mask. What is this thing?
It reminds me kind of season 3 where of Batminute, where he's going to try out the new sonar gear or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Alfred, you haven't tested it yet, since it's one of his modifications. It's a less flimsy balaclava cowl. So.
But then it's a good night.
Something else I love here as well is the Bruce seems to even in universe understand the seriousness, and he gives the appropriate sort of gravitas to his exit. Slow, or he knows like this is a special moment.
I think he's just gone at this point. I think that's what I love about like Alfred's reaction so much is that it's not so much that he's like, the basic way to interpret it is just like Batman looks so terrifying when he sees him. He's like, oh my god, like. But I think it's more that he turns around and he sees that Bruce Wayne's not there anymore.
Yes.
He's been replaced by Batman, and it's more of a, my god, what have I done? Like I stood by and let this happen. And like this kid I knew, I raised from since his parents died, he's now turned into this monstrosity, and it's like I didn't do anything to stop this. Like I just let this happen.
Yeah.
You could also say that wasn't Alfred present whenever he got the breakup letter and the bats came swarming out, so he could also be making the connection that you mentioned of the bats where the parents sort of signaling like, you're not getting married, you're not letting anything get in the way of this. And so if Alfred were to also have made that kind of connection, just really drives home the shock that he would be feeling whenever he sees this.
Oh, absolutely.
If you had that scene though, like in Batman Begins, I was like, "Why bats, Master Wayne?"
Yeah,
and like, "Bats scare me, Alfred." But in this one, it'd be, "Why bats, Master Bruce?" Like, well, you remember that time all the bats swarmed out, and now I see it as like sort of like a totem animal in a way to signal that the universe has chosen me to be this symbol and stuff.
To be honest, when I first saw that scene, I didn't like that it was just like, oh, the bats flew out and that's what. But then the more we've talked about it over the weeks, the more I am connecting with the idea that I think he literally thinks it's a sign from his parents, not even like a metaphor.
Yeah.
He's like, no, they sent the bats.
That's why I'm talking about that transition right before this, where you get the bats, the painting of the parents to him, donning the cowl, which is just like you said, John, there's no mistake in that editing right there. And that, it's literal, but it's figurative, but it's the filmmakers telling us, especially really emphasizing it for the target demographic of this movie, like, hey, this is the connection here. All of these things are just going to kind of come together, and it's the parents putting the pressure on Bruce, although it's Bruce doing that himself. They're kind of projecting it onto them, the whole horrible thing that this dude is going through. He didn't count on being happy, as he says earlier in the movie.
Actually, cause I remember that as well last year, Robert Pattinson was talking about the influences on his Batman, and he very specifically said that like Mask of the Phantasm was an influence in that he said that the versions of Bruce, like his version of Bruce, is influenced by the idea that in Mask of the Phantasm, Bruce believes like he's almost like been chosen to be Batman. Like it's a thing that was like inflicted upon him. Like this was a thing that it was going to happen to somebody, and you have to take up the mantle, kid. Like, and it's the universe has manipulated events in this way to make him into this thing, which we can kind of see here through what we've been talking about. But like, I've only watched like the Batman, the Batman, a handful of times. I never got that vibe from. But Pattinson says it's in there, so I'll have to when we go through it in more detail in the future. We'll have to keep an eye out. But what did you make of the Batman? I don't think it was out the last time we talked to you, Brady.
No, I don't think it was. I liked it. I really did. I thought that you could. This isn't a bad thing or whatever. You could take Batman out of the movie and just put in a random like detective character, and it probably would have been the same movie. Not a bad thing at all. But it really kind of, I don't know, made Batman or Batman movies kind of fit into its. It felt like it could be dropped into like another genre aside from just the Batman genre. Batman movies, they all kind of like are in their own little category thing or whatever. And this was saying like, no, it's not. Batman movies can be seen as a horror movie, as David Fincher type 7 type of thing. It can be this, that, and the other, and not beholden to having to follow certain particular guidelines.
Well, it should mention as well, though, I'll have to follow up on a thing that put a pin in many, many weeks ago. So many weeks ago, in fact, that the episode where it was first mentioned aired the other day, and considering the buffer zone we have this season, that was a while ago. So, but I did mention that Michael Reeves, one of the screenwriters of this movie, who also wrote like Feats of Clay and Perchance to Dream, and a handful of very memorable beat-ass episodes, he wrote a script treatment that you can get online for an episode that was never made that actually follows on directly from this scene. like, it was an episode called Vigil. And the main plot line is that Batman arrives back in the cave, kind of slumps out, and he's been poisoned, and he can barely speak and stuff. He can barely move. And Leslie Tompkins and Robin and everyone's scrabbling to go try to find a cure and do this, that, or whatever. And Alfred is holding like a vigil by like trying to keep Bruce awake by like reminding him of his first night and why he became Batman and stuff. And there's a whole bunch of the whole first act is all like him making the vow when he's a kid, and you see like sort of little hints of where things were going when he was, you know, growing up and stuff. But there's a whole big thing where it directly, the entirety of the second act directly continues on. They recreate this scene of specifying like it's the whole thing of the hand on the mask and him putting it on and Alfred going, my God, and, you know, him walking past them. And we see what happens next, which is that Bruce goes deeper and deeper into the cave. And Alfred just comes up behind him and says, like, look, I promised your parents that I would look after you when you were a child. But now you're an adult. Like, I don't have that promise is gone. And basically says,
you
like,
can't
this
remove
is...
yourself completely, man. Come on, you got to look out for your friends. He's now a friend, right?
See, but he's saying, he's like, you know, if you're going to willingly put yourself in harm all the time, I can't stand by and I can't stop you, but I can't stand by and watch it. Basically doing what Alfred does in Dark Knight Rises, going like, you know, there's another Batman must have bridge. But he basically says, like, you know, if you continue down this path, I will have to tender my resignation.
You're going down a path I can't follow.
Exactly. And Batman says, well, do what you have to do, and just walks away. And then it cuts to, like, a series of, like, him out that first night. This is where it gets a bit silly for me. He's, like, doing, like, a million things that first night, where they're saying, like, the sightings of a Batman, like, who took out this group of thugs doing a mugging. This Batman was sighted over here, doing, like, you know, taking out people doing a jewelry robbery and stuff. And it has, like, a little thing of, like, they're interviewing Bullock on the news going, this Batman freaks out of control, da, da, da. And it cuts to, like, it says a red-haired Jim Gordon going, well, I'm glad he's on our side. And it's all, like, very cute. But the fact that it's all the first night is very, like, ugh.
Oh, yeah.
It does have a thing then. They mentioned that there's a bunch of gangsters in a chemical plant stealing the payroll. And Batman's in there zipping around on catwalks and all this kind of stuff. And you're kind of like, it never says it doesn't say Ace Chemicals or Axis Chemicals. But you're kind of like, I'm thinking they're also, the first night he was out, I guess he also created the Joker too or whatever. But
It's a busy night.
Yeah. I don't know if that would add up timeline wise though, because we know that like months after Andrea Beaumont fled, Jack Napier went and killed her dad. So it would just depend like how long after she dumped Bruce did he wait to do this? Is this the next day?
Oh,
is it the next?
yeah.
You know, is it 7 months later? Like, you know, I guess you could kind of blur it a little bit there. But as all this is happening, Alfred's packing his bags and taking down all his old theater props because he used to be an actor.
Oh, yes, an actor now,
an actor, a thespian. And he sees all this in the news, and he's kind of like weighing up, like, oh, you know, Bruce is doing some good, but this is all crazy. And then eventually, like, he kind of has a moment where he's like, he picks up something and puts it, you know, in his pocket that you can't see. And eventually, then it comes to outside the chemical plant, Batman chasing down like a gangster. The gangster literally says, like, "What are you?" And Batman actually says, "I'm vengeance."
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, holy moly, that's from the new movie.
Nice.
That is cool.
Yeah.
See, that's where Patton's talking about, you know, where he infused Batman Mask of the Phantasm in his performances.
Yeah.
You know, who knows?
And that's a deep cut as well, if it is. Yeah.
Yeah. But Batman then proceeds to like beat the living crap out of this guy, like beats him within an inch of his life. And as he's dealing out these blows, suddenly a gunshot goes off behind him. He turns around and it's Alfred standing there with a prop gun from his old thespian days. And he says, like, you know, Batman goes like, "Oh, another lecture." And Alfred says, "Your father was a great man, Master Bruce, but I would never presume to replace him." And Batman says, like, "Well, then what are you, Alfred?" And Alfred just says, "I am as I have always been, Master Bruce. I am the help."
Oh, I thought it was going to be like, "I am your friend."
Well, then Batman's next line is then, for the love of God, old friend, then help me to grieve. And then they embrace in the alley, and that's the end of the flashback.
And he gives Batman the gun. Take this. Take my weapon.
Here you go, friend.
Yeah, but it's maybe an odd moment to see Alfred and Batman hugging in an alleyway. But like, I think it's setting up then that Alfred is going to help. Batman was going off half crazed on this first night, going on doing too much stuff and getting really overly violent. And Alfred can see like, well, he's obviously doing good, but he needs help reining things in. Because he even, and the way too, the reason he brought a gun to the alley is because he knows Bruce, and he's like, I knew the one thing that would get your attention is a gunshot in an alleyway.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I guess the whole vibe is like, I'm here now to help you, to help what you're doing, but also to keep you in check, kind of thing.
I like that because
I like that.
Like, him doing the Batman thing, I don't actually think is that far-fetched, right? Okay, you could imagine someone doing this. Maybe not to the same level, but you could imagine it happening in life. But it's always sort of perplexed me a bit, like, well, why is Alfred helping? Like, why doesn't he do something to stop this? So that's nice to see that he did want to stop it, but then they've found, like, a mutual understanding. Like, he knows Bruce is going to do this anyway.
Yeah. There is always the perpetual thing of like, well, if you think it's so crazy, man, then why the hell are you sticking around? And it's usually we just interpret it as like, well, I did promise your parents, and I want to make sure that you're safe and all this kind of business.
That's less compelling to me than this, because that's basically like...
This sounds like a fresh, a little bit more original reasoning, as opposed to simply I promised your parents, which... Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, after a while, I think that promise is moot. You know, you can call it off after like 10 years.
but I can't find out exactly why it was never made. It might have been just that they're coming up to the end of production at Fox, and then they tried to switch over to the WB, and it just didn't take or whatever. But I can imagine, considering like all the. Nearly every episode that Michael Reeves wrote is like a classic, except he also wrote that Tiger episode where like to turn Catwoman into a literal Catwoman. It's like an Island of Dr. Moreau thing. And
I think I missed that one.
Oh, it's not good.
Sounds incredible.
It's not good.
It sounds amazing. I'm the only one on this show that liked the Island of Dr. Moreau.
I love that movie. That's two of us.
Yes.
Let somebody else out there.
But the thing though, you're talking about like the 1940 version. You and John meet up at your Island of Dr. Moreau fan club, and they're like, "Wait, what? The Val Kilmer one? Get out of here!"
It was great. I stand by it. I'll fight anyone who says otherwise. Bring it on. Fists up.
But yeah. So I'm sure had that been made, that would be considered like. Again, he wrote "Perchance the Dream," which is Kevin Conroy's favorite episode. So it's like, well, it probably would have been like a real masterpiece had we seen it. But and again, that's only the script treatment. So any problems that you might have probably would have been ironed out because it was just him writing it in the back of a matchbook kind of thing and going like, oh, this will be an episode. I'm sure when they actually got into the properly writing the thing, it would have been,
shaped up, yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, speaking of writing, though, the script is awesome here. After Alfred's, my God, what have I done? He,
this is not my beautiful orphan.
after he turns into David Byrne, it's written in such a way. I love the way it's written. Right, it says Alfred with barely a whisper, "My God," and it's his master solemnly moves past him. He is now someone else, a creature dark and terrible. And I'm like, oh, that's compelling. That's cool.
Yeah.
Especially when you read it. My God, that was sexy.
Oh, well, I didn't even give it my all. I'm only operating at 70%.
You're really going into Bela Lugosi there for a bit. Like, you've now become the children of the night.
Oh, yes.
What sweet music they make. I went into the Gary Oldman version then, where the accent was all over the place.
To be honest, my Bela Lugosi's terrible unless I'm doing the impression of him from the movie Ed Wood.
Yeah.
Pull the string!
It's like the realization that, like, I think, the guy playing him in Ed Wood was better than... It's like, well, it could be that Bela Lugosi actually wasn't really that good an actor.
Don't you dare.
And I mean that Martin Landau is a good actor.
Listeners, would you be opposed to me killing Niall right now? I can't believe you would say. How dare you besmirch him?
He's good. He's good in Dracula, but he's just going big.
He's pretty.
Outside of that, it's including their Island of Dr. Moreau adaptation starring Lugosi.
Oh, that's true. That's
right,
true.
we're covering that.
Yeah.
I have to also say too, I don't know of anyone else in the chat is has watched it. I tried watching Renfield yesterday, and I gave up.
Hey.
You gave up?
Yeah.
20 minutes in, I was like, I'm not feeling this at all. And I thought I was so in the bag for it, but it came across as a real, like it should have been made, 13 years ago. When the kind of like a post-Zombieland kind of humor, it's just very like...
it's bizarre. It's like they intentionally... I mean, I guess they did. Wow. Okay, I'm glad you're with me on that one, because I was not sure if it was intentionally as it was.
Well, I think though...
there, too, for Nick Cage. Nick Cage is Dracula, and it's like, he's not really doing anything for me, though.
Yeah.
I think maybe because Vampire's Kiss is such a high bar for the manic Cage that you're like, well, if he's not doing something really stupid like that, then who cares?
I still think you should finish it, and then if you don't like it, it's like fair enough. But no.
I mean, not to get off on another movie, I guess it's what we do here. The idea that it's like about self-help and self-care was kind of interesting, and I was like, okay, this is a strange, unique approach, whatever, and just was like, what the hell happened to that? Instead, I don't know what I'm watching.
Yeah. I just had that kind of thing of like 20 minutes, and I was like, I just do not want to continue with this. Yeah. Like, I just had a thing, and I was like, you know what? I'm out.
Maybe you just
a few times I go, bail? Yeah, I'm bailing.
Oh.
I'm out of here.
Maybe you just were in the right kind of headspace.
That could be. Like, as I said, one of my most famous ones was like, I saw John Carpenter's The Fog years ago, and hated it.
Really?
And then I rewatched it like a couple of years after, and I was like, this is fucking great. What the hell what was wrong with me that day?
Hey, I notoriously was like that when I first watched Blade Runner. I didn't like it because I thought, I'm in for an exciting sci-fi movie that's like action-packed, and the cover looked like Star Wars. And then I was like, what the hell's this? But then when you know what you're getting, it's different.
Right.
This will be our post-Miami connection project. Will be me and John watching Renfield minute by minute, and then it'll just stop at episode 20.
That's it.
Right. So we gave it a shot.
Hey, there's plenty of Movies by Minutes podcasts that have done that.
Oh yeah, oh boy.
Not calling out anyone. Oh.
No. Do you have a movie, Brady, that you remember really hating that then you grew to love, or is it? No. Nothing comes to mind. He's like, I never changed my mind about anything.
I never changed my mind.
But then, so back in a minute though.
Coming back to this movie.
We have and back. Bruce is back to reality. Like he snapped back into
life, back to reality.
Yeah, I think we have one other like minor flashback later on, but we're nearly done with the flashbacks of the movie. I think from here on in, it's like a straight line basically to get to the end of this thing. But,
thank God, I do really like this film, but it's like the flashbacks get confusing especially minute by minute, and you're like, hang on, which level of flashback are we in here? Which level of Inception?
Yeah, so then we cut back to the picture. I keep always forgetting again. This is in Valestra's house. This Batman's broken into Valestra's house, and then he just steals the whole picture. Like
he just pockets it. It looks like it's got the frame and everything.
Oh yeah, he doesn't like taking it out to fold it up. It's just like again nowadays too. Your impulse would be to like take out your phone and take a picture of the picture.
Yeah,
because you didn't want to leave the. Valestra's going to come in and see that his picture is gone, and it's going to be like, what the hell? Who stole my picture?
I should have replaced it with something like comical.
Right, yeah. No, it's like Batman in the animated series has used a camera multiple times to like document stuff as he goes. He could have done that instead of being a jerk and stealing this precious memory that this guy's framed on his wall.
He wants Sal to know he was there.
Yeah. Although it might be like a black and white 1930s camera he has though. So he's like, well, the resolution will be terrible, so I better take the whole thing.
I just can't believe he takes the lot. Like it's almost like when you hear tales back in the old days of people stealing records from record shops. It's like, how the hell did you get that under your clothes?
Yeah. But he puts it under he seems to like put it under his cape. He's like, where does it go? Like, is he going around with it under his armpits the whole time? Like,
yeah, it must be,
like,
right?
I can suspend my disbelief here in the fact that his eyes just suddenly become white when he puts the cowl on. But I'm sorry, sneaking like the picture frame behind your cape. No, I need more.
I think you've got to think of it like video game logic, where your inventory is just enormous.
Yeah, like in the Arkham games, where he's like, he's got this like giant grappling thing that like does special other things, and it's like the size of a pump action shotgun, and then he just puts it behind his back, and it's gone somehow. Yeah. But yeah, it's the. again, I just thought he'd want to be more cautious because, again, it's coming up next week. But we do know that like he has his moment of like, first he whacked Chucky Saul, then Buzz, now he's after me. And it could be like, why do you think he's after you next? He's like, someone stole the photo from my office. Like, what the hell? It's clearly Batman. Again, too, isn't stealing a crime, Batman? Just taking a photo is not yours, man.
That's true, actually. That is full-on evil. I don't care if the guy's a crook. You're stealing his property.
Yeah, it's like you can't go bust people for theft. You know? And then I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a precious memory to a doddering old man, and you're just taking it from him, man.
But then after that, we go to the aforementioned Go Ham Wor Fair.
Yeah. Speaking of Sal Balestra.
Yeah.
I love that. And war. It sounds like warfare.
Yeah. Go Ham Wor Fair. So going into the warfare, the World's Fair, there's something about just the abandoned amusement park, the abandoned theme park. Something about that idea, that aesthetic is just so cool.
Yeah.
And whenever I went to see Jurassic World, was excited about the movie or whatever, and then I got the movie that I got. But the one thing that like I really cared about, really wanted to see, was returning to the original visitor center from Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
And you can't see anything when they get in there, and I'm like, this is like, no, how the hell could you screw this up? It could not be that hard to have more than just like a couple of shafts of light coming down through a room full of vines or whatever. So it's
there's a lot of things wrong with that film.
Yeah. Not to bring us to talking about my dead brother was one thing. Talking about Jurassic World, sorry,
that's too far.
Much worse. Yeah.
But this place, it's very visually interesting and stuff. It's derelict, it's falling apart, and I like that it shows us that the promise of the future that we saw earlier in the movie, it never came to pass. The future is in shambles, which is a bit like real life. Nothing panned out the way that people were hoping and expecting.
It's a relatable thing too. Like the ground turns sour, as Fred Gwynn would say. So it's like, the once bright and shining hope is just rotted away, like it does for so many people who, like, when they were like 20. And then when they're like, 35, is like, this is where I thought it was going to be. Like,
yeah, right.
Very few people, yeah.
That's the thing, too, about the idea of, like, the World's Fair, the idea of promise. This is going to be, like, the most advanced example of, the car, whatever. And if, all we're seeing is the remnants of that, like what was supposed to be, which is, never could have happened. It's such a Gotham thing. I don't know. It's its own kind of decrepit, once flourishing promise of what this beautiful city could be, and no, completely decrepit. So,
and it's all kind of gone, down the drain because of people like Sal.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's well, one question I did have though, before we wrap up, is like, so we already had in the movie that like Sal Balestra and the Balestra mob were operating under Batman's nose the entire time, and he always like, oh, Salvatore Balestra, who could this be? And like we can later on, like, not to jump ahead in the movie too much, but like the Joker figures out that Andre is the Phantasm nearly instantaneously and stuff. And also it's just like, so Sal Balestra knows where the Joker is. Like, he's like, I better go get the Joker. Somehow he just got the word. I'm assuming he just knew somebody. Maybe the Joker's hiring goons or whatever. But somehow he had enough connect with the criminal underworld to be, still intact connect with the criminal underworld to be like, I'm looking for the Joker. And then eventually someone was like, he's hiding out in the Gotham. And then apparently Batman cannot do that. Like, he's like, the Joker's out somewhere. He knows he's not in Arkham. And he's like, well, I'm guessing he'll attack sometime, and I'll find him then. Like, it's a bit like, if old Sal Balestra can track down this guy, this emphysemic old man can get his crap together to go after the Joker. Batman, what are you doing? Like, what?
The world's greatest detective. That's just too much for him to handle.
Yeah. This movie, what's he doing? He's not at home washing his tights. He's in the rain looking at his ex through binoculars, having dinner with someone else.
That also washes his tights. The rain,
Yeah, there you go. It's like, it'll have to be a natural washing machine for you tonight, then. But I mean, I'm beyond Sal saying like there has to be some other way. I'm all noted out for minute 37. Unless you guys have anything else you want to bring up in particular about the minute.
Not much really, other than just I find this whole sort of scene once he gets out the car and he's walking through the remains, of the attractions and stuff. It's kind of beautiful in its decay. It's sort of a forlorn feeling.
It's got a real. Again, I love the music in the moment though, because it's very subtle, but it has this really eerie going in the background. It's a real the eye of the storm, the calm before the storm moment, because we know like the next week chaos is about to erupt. And this is just a kind of like little bit of calm before it all hits and stuff.
And you feel it because, John, like you're saying, there's this melancholic, just kind of a beautiful thing to the whole thing. But you do know, and not just because like, okay, we're here to meet the Joker, so of course the calm before the storm. But there is just definitely a certain vibe that the movie takes on here that is very unsettling. And again, done so well here in this animated movie that is just way better than it should be.
We do also get like there's that little drone goes past.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, I guess that's how the Joker clocked that Lester was here. Is like he's got a little security guy, got a little security plane thing going around. But it's also kind of like the buzzing of like a fly around a rotting corpse or something. And it adds even more to how decrepit things are to have this sort of buzzing thing zipping past over the top of it and stuff. But one thing we do also ask though, Brady, is that because BTAS was so seminal in a lot of our generation's experience growing up, we are asking the guests what their other favorite animated shows were from back when they were young ones.
To definitely show my age, outside of BTAS, the real Ghostbusters was definitely a big one for me.
I don't know why I didn't anticipate that being the answer.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It's honestly, between, if memory serves, which it usually does not, those were kind of just the two that I grew up on, for sure. And I don't know, who would have known that was it should have been some kind of foreshadowing as to which movies by minute show I would take on would be Ghostbusters. So,
See, I always loved it back in the day, the Ghostbusters, cartoon, but I think I liked the toys from it, because there was loads of cool toys that came out of the show. Whereas whenever I was watching the show, as much as I liked it, in the back of my mind, I always thought, yeah, but that's not what Egon looks like. He hasn't got a quiff like that. This is weird. What's going on?
This is the real Ghostbusters, not those fake Ghostbusters from the movie that originated the concept.
Yeah, but I can kind of understand what they do with some of the characters. But Egon, it's like, he doesn't have a rock and roll quiff. His hair's totally different. What?
I know. It's like Morrissey. It's like Peter Venkman is not going for this hot Morrissey look. It's the idea of it being called the real Ghostbusters. There is an episode where the Ghostbusters animation go to the movie premiere of a movie made about them called Ghostbusters. And on the screen in the premiere of the show, they're actually showing the live action version of the movie.
Oh, that's hilarious.
It's this
that's
weird
so good.
meta. Yeah,
That's in the cartoon, or is it?
It's in the cartoon.
I'll have to look that up to see that. That's like they're actually showing live action footage within the cartoon.
Yeah, yes.
Holy moly!
Really strange.
That's a genius way to deal with it, like the differentiation, between the two things. It's like, oh yeah, that's the movie about us because we're real.
What did you make of Extreme Ghostbusters, Brady? Because I really loved it, but then because of like you might have been like. It was the late 90s, so maybe at that point you were like, I'm out of cartoons or whatever. But
I think I only saw maybe like the last episode, to be honest with you. I probably cut bits and pieces of it, but it didn't feel like Ghostbusters, so I kind of didn't bother with it.
It looks very off the time, doesn't it? Like everyone's radical.
Yeah.
I watched an episode of it not too long back, though, because a lot of it's up on YouTube now, like as part of the Ghostbusters official channel. And I was like, I think this stands up. Like,
it's not terrible.
Yeah. I think it's due. It's if they're continuing on with after the afterlife continuity, why not throw in like a couple of the characters from the cartoon and be like, now we got the goth girls here, and the I feel back, I can't remember the characters' names. They're gonna be like, wheelchair guy, and all the memorable characters from Extreme Ghostbusters.
That's what his name tag is gonna say in his jumpsuit, wheelchair guy. So,
but But yeah, because I know obviously you have to nip off yourself, Brady. So
I do.
Yeah,
but thank you guys so much for including me again this year. I've been looking forward to this all year, as I always do.
Oh yeah,
We'll always make a space for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. This movie, Mask of the Phantasm, it's definitely just a seminal moment in all of Batman lore. Certainly cinematic Batman, and I don't know that any of the other movies deal with his personal plight quite like this one does, and the pressure that one puts on himself to do whatever he has to do is handled, I think, with more I don't know, sincerity in this movie than in any of the other ones, and in a way, so you could say it is kind of the premier Batman movie, maybe.
And it's especially weird, amazing, because you assume this will be the one to do it like the worst. No, it's a cartoon. Yeah,
that's the thing. It's a write off. This medium is animation. Is this movie definitely proves that is just like this is one to be taken just as seriously. It stands up just as well as any of the live action ones, or animation is just as I don't know, valid. I don't know what the right term is. A medium as anything else, because you can do, if you can make a movie that it hits in the way that this movie does through animation, then it's incredible. So
couldn't agree more. Well, we will head off into the dark night. Brady, would you like to promote anything? I don't know if you're doing any kind of show. Promote anything you want. Send people to a website if you want, whatever.
You know what, everybody? Just check out Bat Minute, and you'll be good to go. Ghostbusters Minute, Jurassic Park Minute, Goonies Minute are all out there in the ether. Goonies Minute actually is only available on YouTube right now. Scott Corelli over at Dueling Genre has actually taken on hosting of the other ones, and so you can find those out there online for your listening pleasure.
Yeah, excellent.
That's about all I got.
Do check them out. They're great shows. And do come and speak to us on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, on Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram, The Bat Minute. I know Niall likes the. And why don't you go to Sleepy Charlie Media on Patreon, because you can get more exciting stuff from our network. I don't know what we're doing when you hear this. It's probably still the Riddler. Probably. It's going on and on. It's not going on as much as Batman 89, but it's going on.
Actually, I don't know if we'll make it a main feed episode or a Patreon one, but by the time this episode comes out, The Flash will be out. We'll have talked about it somewhere. It might well be on the Patreon, so you can listen to that.
At the very least, it'll be early access on the Patreon.
Yeah.
So you'll get it first if you go there. But yes, we will see you again next time for more Bat Minute of the Phantasm.
Next time, Assault of the Automatons. A cauldron of decrepit robots is shot into a shower of shrapnel and grime as a coughing old coot encounters the clown prince of crime. Our pal Sal just wants to talk business, but can he sweet-talk the sinister shogun of silliness? The joke's finally back on us in our subsequent episode, folks. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute. We'll be back.